Maurene Comey was for 10 years an extremely successful, dedicated, and ethical assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. She was a high-ranking person in that office. She became the head of the Public Integrity Unit. She supervised the case against Robert Menendez, the corrupt senator. She tried Ghislaine Maxwell. She tried P. Diddy. The idea that she got fired is a disgrace to the Justice Department. This is an outrage that this woman got fired.
As we all know, President Donald Trump is desperately trying to get Americans and his base in particular to drop the story about the Epstein files and the fact that the Trump administration reneged on its promise to release the Epstein files, which is why it's so strange that while he wants that to happen, the Trump administration has decided to fire a woman by the name of Maurene Comey, who happens to be the woman who prosecuted Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, Maurene Comey shares a name with James Comey because she actually happens to be his daughter. So that might have something to do with the firing, but I'm gonna give you all the details as we know them and you can decide for yourselves. Now, again, Comey is the daughter of Trump's main foe, biggest foe, and that's James Comey, and has worked for the U.S. Attorney's Office for nearly a decade and prosecuted both Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. She's also the prosecutor in the Sean Diddy Combs case, which did not turn out the way that I suspected it would turn out. I mean, he ended up getting the most serious charges dropped and essentially just got convicted for paying for sex workers. But nonetheless, Comey was informed of her firing in a letter that cited Article 2 of the Constitution, which describes the powers of the president, according to two of the people who spoke to the New York Times about this. According to CNN, the reason for her firing remains unclear. It wasn't immediately clear. And there is something that we can maybe nibble on here. A person familiar with the situation said, being a Comey is untenable in this administration, given her father, James Comey, is, quote, constantly going after the administration, end quote. I don't think that's true. I don't think James Comey is constantly going after the Trump administration, but I do know that Trump absolutely despises him and probably felt uncomfortable with having his daughter serve in the Justice Department. Now, obviously questions are being raised about whether her involvement in the Epstein prosecutions was the real reason for her ouster. Now, just 2 days ago, Donald Trump claimed that the Epstein files, which by the way, earlier he said don't exist, were actually concocted by Obama and James Comey.
These files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden and we went through years of that with the Russia hoax, with all of the different things that we had to go through. We've gone through years of it.
Okay, so making this out to be a Democratic hoax is hilarious to me. And reporter Maggie Haberman was asked on CNN about what she thought about Comey's firing and what it's related to, whether it's related to the ongoing Epstein files scandal. And here's what she said.
It's hard to ignore the fact that she was involved in some of the cases involving Jeffrey Epstein. Time will tell whether this was the reason why, whether folks suggest that she had something to do with that. As you say, she apparently was not given a specific reason. And Article 2 was cited as, under the powers of Article 2 and the executive branch. She was dismissed. The president has obviously no love for James Comey, but this would, potentially feed into a line of what he is trying to allege is some broader effort that's separate from him.
So before we get to a statement that Maureen Dowd sent to her, I'm sorry. Wow, that was a weird reference. I don't know why Maureen Dowd came to mind. Maurene Comey, I meant to say. Before we get to the statement that she put out to her colleagues in regard to her firing, I just want to kind of skip ahead to this tidbit. This is Graphic 7. In 2017, the gossip site Radar Online sued the FBI in the Southern District under the Freedom of Information Act, of course, seeking the release of documents related to the Epstein files. Now, as I mentioned, Comey happened to be a prosecutor in that case, and she wanted to essentially suppress the release, right? So in a declaration submitted in that case in January of 2024, Comey wrote that releasing the documents could damage the government's case in a potential retrial of Miss Maxwell, including by subjecting witnesses to possible embarrassment and harassment that could make them less likely to testify. And ultimately, the judge overseeing the case sided with the FBI and agreed with that argument. So Comey has a history of trying to suppress the release of the Epstein files, which is why I really do call into question whether that was the real reason she was fired. But I mean, now that Ghislaine Maxwell has been convicted, maybe there was a possibility that she was open to releasing the Epstein files, and maybe Trump and the administration was concerned about that. Who knows? All we can do at this moment is speculate because there's been no reason given for her firing. What do you think, Cenk?
I think it's super clear. So first on Maurene Comey, well, there's two parts to her, right? So her not wanting to release the files, that drives me crazy because of this nonsense excuse they keep giving. It's such obvious horse crap about, oh, we're worried about the victims and the witnesses. You never heard of a black marker? Nobody knows how to redact? Why do they keep saying that? It's the easiest thing in the world to redact. You really have to be stupid to fall for that. So, no one's ever heard of it before. I guess we'll just have to tell you the victims' names too. No, you don't. No, that's to protect the guilty. So the fact that she did that is troubling and it bothers me. But overall, her record is actually, and she lost the Diddy trial. But you think they're firing her because she lost the important parts of the Diddy trial? No. So why are they firing her? So here's the obvious part. Number one, she's actually the only one who has prosecuted Epstein and Maxwell. So if you're looking to cover up the crimes, you're kind of pissed at the one prosecutor in the country who actually prosecuted them. Number two, her last name is Comey. How did they get this lucky? So it's James Comey's daughter, so it's a perfect scapegoat. So they could then turn around to their base and go, oh, see, the Comeys, told you. It's all fake, Russia, with James Comey, Epstein hoax with Maurene Comey, and they're hoping that it does two things. One is stop the bleeding, right? And just make sure you got something on the wound there, distract the part of your base that wants to believe you. Because obviously, look guys, we say, okay, we'd love for the Trump voters to flip. But would you, if you're a Democrat, would you have flipped to Trump within 6 months of Biden? I don't know any Democrats or very many Democrats that would have done that. Apparently Trump found enough by the end that did that, right? But so it's not like, so he's thinking, okay, I can close off most of the damage here. But then that leads to the next part, which is for the part of MAGA that really wanted accountability and really wanted to hold the establishment and the elites accountable, they're jettisoning you. So it's like one of those science fiction movies, they're up in space and they close the door and you can't get back in, and then they hit the eject button, you're off in outer space. So they've decided that they're gonna move on without that part of the base. So, but for the guys, and by the way, that part of the base now, which is a trippy part that has like, Marjorie Taylor Greene's got 1 foot in each base, Tucker Carlson's more on that side, Alex Jones weirdly is kind of on that, the one side being jettisoned, etc., right? So for those guys, they're gonna hate every part of this. And now the fact that he's calling it no longer the Epstein files, but the Jeffrey Epstein hoax is just rubbing it in their face. And it's like, hey, hand me some salt. I'm gonna pour it in their wounds. And if that wasn't enough, Anna, as you saw earlier today, Nancy Pelosi came out and said, Epstein's just a distraction. Basically, we should let Trump off the hook on this one.
Yeah,
really?
I mean, look, I was curious why Nancy Pelosi of all people would have that take, because when it comes to Donald Trump and his foibles, I mean, she loves to just constantly focus on them, emphasize them. I mean, it's a way in her mind of hurting Trump. So it's weird that in this moment, when you have pretty significant portion of his base turning on him, she's not taking advantage of this opportunity for political reasons. And so saying that it's a distraction is fascinating. I looked into it a little further. Look, she has a very friendly, close relationship with members of AIPAC. In fact, the former president of AIPAC is like her very close friend, and I think neighbor, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. But they were close friends for 25 years. She has been on multiple interviews talking about her close, loving relationship with Israel. So maybe she's fearful that the release of the Epstein files would confirm some of our biggest fears, that it was all really just part of this big blackmail operation in order to essentially blackmail powerful politicians and various figures in this country to kind of play ball with the foreign policy that Israel wants. I don't know, but I don't see this as a distraction. I see this as an incredibly messy cover up, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But let me just say one other thing that might kind of reinforce what you're saying in regard to your speculation as to why Comey got fired. You know, Trump's been in office for several months now. So why is she getting fired now? Why didn't she get fired right away? Especially during like this federal workers purge that took place at the beginning of his second term. I think the timing is a little suspicious.
Of course. It's not a legitimate firing. They're firing her to be a scapegoat. There's no question about that. And on Nancy Pelosi, look, we can speculate about a lot of different reasons why the government wants to cover up the Epstein files. But what is clear is this is the uniparty, the Democrats and the Republicans. They have both blocked the Epstein files for whatever reason. It might be as simple as Clinton and Trump are both on them, or it could be the other nefarious reasons. But either way, the government, both parties have decided there is no way in hell we are ever going to release these, right? So this is Nancy Pelosi helping Donald Trump. So because what that does, guys, if you're like on the left or the right, and you look at it and you go, oh, that actually confirms my suspicions, right? That doesn't make it less suspicious. That makes it more suspicious that this is the one time Nancy Pelosi's agreeing with Donald Trump, right? But for mainstream media, it's the exact opposite. Once Pelosi says move on, they're all gonna move on. And they've all started, now they've come back to calling anyone who believes that the list should be released and that Epstein was killed a conspiracy theorist. And they're all now saying conspiracy theorists, like they're trying to jettison everyone in that camp and get the establishment firmly back in charge. Nothing to see here, guys. Hundreds of girls just raped themselves. There was no powerful politicians or rich people or anyone involved, but the US government has made a decision. They're gonna protect the guilty. And now, by the way, if you're a Democrat and you were going ha about Trump, which we were and I am to this day, because we've been consistent on it all along. And now it's your beloved Pelosi, and all of a sudden you can turn around and go, oh yeah, maybe it is a distraction, we should move on. No, then you're no better than the cultists, right? So
yeah. So by the way, final thing that I'll add to all of this, it's kind of remarkable how many powerful people in government are just mask off about this whole situation. So former FBI Director Andrew McCade says the Epstein files shouldn't be released because, quote, there isn't actually any public right to be able to see into sensitive FBI files.
Yeah.
Okay, so just straight up saying, you know, we don't believe in transparency. We don't believe in letting the American people know what type of perverts run their government. I think that there's a deep public interest in knowing.
Wait,
okay,
Anna, who said that?
Jeffrey, former FBI Director Andrew McCade said that.
Okay, see, there we go. Uniparty, totally coalescing, right? What do you mean we don't have a right to see it? Hundreds of underage girls were raped. We don't have a right to prosecute the people who did it. We don't have a right to find out who did it. We don't have a right to justice, says a guy who was in the Justice Department. See, Democrat, Republican does not matter. The government, the US government, for whatever reason, is obviously complicit. It's the most obvious thing I have ever seen.
So Cenk, I promised it, so I want to just mention what Maurene Comey wrote to her colleagues in an email. She says, yesterday was unexpectedly my last day in the office. I was summarily fired via memo from Maine Justice that did not give a reason for my termination. If a career prosecutor can be fired without reason, fear may seep into the decisions of those who remain. Do not let that happen. Fear is the tool of a tyrant wielded to suppress independent thought. Instead of fear, let this moment fuel the fire that already burns at the heart of this place, a fire of righteous indignation at abuses of power, of commitment to seek justice for victims, of dedication to truth above all else. I have a different interpretation of what the Justice Department is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I hear you. And so it's a nice statement. I don't know that any fire actually burns. I think that everybody's gonna be totally scared and do whatever Trump says. But okay, my last couple of things here are CNN ran a total BS poll from earlier saying, oh, Trump's ratings are going up and Democrats' ratings are going down because of the Epstein files. They better not talk about the Epstein files anymore. Come on, guys. Like every part of this is so brazen and over the top. So here, let's as I always do, I'll do a prediction so you'll see if I'm right or wrong and see if I understand it well or maybe Harry Enten and CNN's got this figured out, right? My prediction is within a week or two, when you get a couple of real polls in, they won't be able to play games around the dates of the polls. And yes, Trump will have taken a significant downturn in the polls. If I'm wrong about that, okay, then by the way, I will recalibrate because that means that everyone online is not real, right? So maybe it didn't reach Kansas, maybe it didn't reach the middle of the country. We'll all find out together in a week or two. But my guess is no, his polls are going to be badly hurt. And so, and why? Guys, he did it again today. This is the third or fourth time he's done it. He called his own supporters weaklings, equated them to the radical left lunatics, and he said, quote, I don't want their support anymore. Who says that about their own voters? Actually, Democrats sometimes say that. Okay, so now I'm gonna give the last word to one of our members on YouTube, Simon Moody. And we love doing the show with you guys, so hit the join button below. Simon wrote in, a woman who has a track record of prosecuting rich and powerful men successfully. Yeah, why would Trump want her gone? I can't imagine. Okay, yet another good point. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.